All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first ever virtual State of the City presented by the Woodland Chamber of Commerce and graciously sponsored by Dignity Health and Pacific Coast Producers. The church bells right across the street from me told me that it's 12 o'clock on the dot, and we've got lots to talk about today, so we're gonna get set for our program. I apologize about the networking, but again, hopefully that's the only hiccup we get today. My name is Anique Ramsey. I'm a 30-year Woodland resident and the branch manager at Van Burden Insurance Services, located on the corner of Walnut and Main Street. And I'm also privileged to serve you as the 2020 president of the Woodland Chamber of Commerce. We have, like I said, we've got a jam-packed program today, so please join me as we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Give us just a second to bring up Old Glory. Let us begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We sincerely appreciate you carving out time to be here today. I would like to recognize and welcome a few guests that are scheduled to be with us for our program. We've got Mayor Pro Tem Tom Stallard, Chief of Police Derek Caff, Fire Chief Eric Zane, Yolo County Assessor, Clerk Recorder, Voter Registrar Jesse Salinas, Yolo County Superintendent of Schools Garth Lewis, Woodland Joint Unified School District Superintendent Tom Pritchard, and Aide to Senator Dodd, Lisette Marshman. Thank you for joining us today and for your service to the City of Woodland, our businesses and residents. As you may know, the State of the City event has always been a sold-out affair held in March of each year. Networking business members, elected officials, and city representatives usually fill the room at the Woodland Community Center to enjoy a nice lunch and listen to an annual update of the state of the city. As we began to plan our event for this past March, a quick decision was made to postpone for a later date due to the inconceivable work and life environments created by the COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to commend our planning committee, the chamber staff, and the city for developing this virtual forum so that we continue to bring you this important annual communication. The Woodland Chamber of Commerce is an active membership organization which promotes business growth and economic prosperity by strengthening and enhancing our community relationships. The Woodland Chamber of Commerce supports, encourages, and advocates for business and industry, creating the best community in which to live, work, and do business. This is our renewed mission and vision statements that were recently adopted by our 2020 Board of Directors. Today, we are officially unveiling our new Woodland Chamber of Commerce logo. Cesar Torres of My Cali Designs has created an image that is eye-catching and clearly depicts the roots of our organization. We are excited to begin branding our efforts and events throughout the community with this beautiful image you see displayed behind me and also in gold right here on my shirt. The Woodland Chamber of Commerce is not a not-for-profit organization that largely depends on the annual investments of our members to continue operations. We are currently operating with a lean staff and are prioritizing our objectives, communications, and events to meet our mission and vision for the business community and our organization. Please keep your eye out for our monthly Pulse of the City email communication, which will include dates and details for our virtual lunch and learns and networking opportunities, like our cocktails and chit chat, Zoom meetings, and virtual coffee and connections that will begin again in September. The Chamber relies heavily on our annual fundraising events to continue our good work throughout the business community. The Chamber Golf Tournament, typically held in the first week in May, has been rescheduled for September 17th. Participants will once again enjoy playing 18 holes at the Yochadehi Golf Course. This will be a modified tournament to ensure that our golfers will be safe and enjoy a great day on this beautiful course. Players will be limited and we will most likely sell out, So get your team together and sign up early by contacting the Chamber today. Moving forward with our program, today's free virtual event has been made possible by the generous support of our headline sponsors, Dignity Health and Pacific Coast Producers. Dignity Health has been working diligently to keep our communities safe. Let us hear more from Dignity.
Hello, my name is Edmundo Castañeda, and it is my honor to serve as Interim President of Dignity Health Woodland Memorial Hospital. I hope this finds you well and healthy. You're probably accustomed to Kevin Vaziri addressing you at this event, but in his absence, I am pleased to provide the following updates. Woodland Memorial Hospital is a proud and long-standing member of the Woodland Chamber of Commerce, and I appreciate all the Chamber has done and is doing to advocate on behalf of businesses and jobs in our community. Thank you to the Chamber and the City of Woodland for hosting today's State of the City. It goes without saying that the last few months have been challenging at the hospital, but it's been challenging for every single one of us. At the same time, I have never been more proud and grateful for our employees and providers for their response to COVID-19 and the overwhelming response we have received from our community. You have taken care of us in so many ways throughout the pandemic, whether that was dropping food by, making inspirational signs, or delivering handmade masks. On behalf of the hospital, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude for your support. As the county reopens and we start to resume elective procedures, we want our community to know that we are ready to welcome you and serve your healthcare needs. Patient safety is our top priority, and we continue to take significant steps to make sure it is safe to provide care and be treated at our care sites. If you or your loved ones have been delaying medical care or ignoring symptoms, we want to strongly encourage you to seek medical care immediately, whether in person or through virtual care. I also want to reiterate our commitment to doing good and supporting recovery efforts in our community. We know the devastating impact this pandemic has had financially on local businesses, nonprofits, and on hardworking families, and we will be there to help lift our community up. We will continue to serve on community boards, sponsor important events, and provide community benefit dollars to meet the health needs of the people we serve. Last fiscal year alone, Woodland Memorial contributed $23.5 million in community benefit. Our mission calls to serve, and that's what we are here to do. In closing, thank you for the opportunity to say a few words, and best wishes on a wonderful state of the city.
Welcome back. In just a few minutes, we will start the State of the City address featuring Woodland Mayor Richard Lansburgh and Interim City Manager Ken Hiatt. This quality pre-recorded presentation would not have been possible without the help of our friends at Catalyst Church, located here in Woodland. Pastor Matt and Stephanie donated their time, space, expertise, and state-of-the-art technology to bring you the quality program you're about to see. Once the pre-recorded program is over, we will have a live Q&A session with the mayor, city manager, and pro tem mayor Tom Stallard. There were several questions submitted during registration which assisted our speakers in choosing their content and will be addressed during the pre-recorded program. Please use the Zoom Q&A feature to submit questions during the presentation, and we will get to as many of these questions as possible during the live portion of our program, immediately following the presentation. Mayor Rich Lansburgh has lived in Woodland since 1966 and in District 1 for over 30 years. In 1976, Rich was hired as a patrol officer by the City of Woodland Police Department, where he served his community until 1997. Rich served as a patrol officer, detective, YONET agent, corporal, patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, and promoted to lieutenant, where he managed the patrol division. In 1997, Rich began a new career as a Woodland-based general practice attorney, where he has served the various legal needs of our diverse community for 25 years. Rich ran and was elected to the Woodland City Council on November 6, 2018. Rich has priorities of strengthening economic development by collaborating with businesses to create conditions for smart growth and finding immediate and workable solutions to homeless issues, including affordable housing, mental health, and employment services. Rich has particular interests in taking affirmative steps to improve the condition of our streets and roads and making Woodland safer for pedestrians, joggers, walkers, and bicyclists. Rich also will work to improve public safety by promoting the effectiveness of fire and police services. Above all, Rich wants to see our city provide top-notch professional services to our diverse population and making sure that leadership responds to the needs of the whole community. By working towards common goals, Rich believes Woodland can be an even better place to live, work, and enjoy. Ken Hiatt serves as the now interim city manager of the city of Woodland. Ken is a Yolo County native and alumni of UC Davis. Prior to being hired in 2013, he worked 20 years for the city of Davis, where he served in various planning and economic development capacities. In addition to overseeing the city's operations, he is actively involved in helping implement the city's 2035 general plan, developing a stronger business climate, stimulating downtown revitalization, and managing the city's capital infrastructure and environmental stewardship projects. And now, on behalf of the Woodland Chamber of Commerce, we present you the 2020 State of the City Address. Enjoy.
Good afternoon to all those who have tuned in today for the 2020 State of the City webinar. Who knew that in 2020 we'd be using this virtual format to bring you the State of the City program? But we adapt, don't we? On behalf of all 5 members of the City Council, and as your mayor, I wish to thank the Woodland Chamber of Commerce, the city's business community, for this opportunity to bring you today's message. I also wish to extend a great thanks to Dignity Health and to Pacific Coast Products as sponsors of today's program. Without their sponsorship, these events may not happen. I don't have to remind anyone that 2020 started out as a year of tremendous promise and anticipation that we were going to have a great year. All of us had plans for 2020. We know the city had some great events lined up for 2020, including events that the city hadn't seen before. But all those plans, all those events are now on hold, at least for the foreseeable future. These first 6 months of 2020 have been anything but clear in terms of our future, and where we all witnessed our plans and our hopes quickly turn to fears what seems like overnight. This afternoon, I'm going to highlight just a couple of areas completed projects that we continue to work on and those that we have finished. Let me start with the novel coronavirus of 2019. Boy, it just goes to show you how quickly things can turn. In the early part of the year, mid-January, we first learned that something was going on overseas, and we didn't think it was going to hit our shores. You all know in the next few weeks, we were getting mixed messages about what was happening with this COVID virus. Then all hell broke loose in spring. Here in Woodland, we took drastic measures immediately, and I know for some of you, maybe it felt a little bit too early. But from our experience, we have learned when something feels wrong, it's the right time to take action. Because by the time it feels right, it may be too late. So we moved, and we moved fast. Day after day, we asked all of you to do more. We asked you every step of the way to help us with this pandemic. The lessons of history taught us that the cities that acted the slowest during the pandemics suffered the worst fate. That's why we acted quickly and swiftly. First, we banned gatherings. We closed bars. We closed movie theaters and bowling alleys. We asked you to keep physical distance. We asked you to wear face coverings if you entered or worked at essential businesses. We asked you to sacrifice and help us save lives, including your own. We knew this would be a blow to your personal lives, to your economy, to your homes. We knew it would be a blow to your stability and your income. But knowing that not doing this would be far, far worse. And while we asked most of you to stand still, we counted on others to move fast. Medical personnel, government workers, nonprofits, first responders, grocery clerks, farm workers, truck drivers, all kept vital lifelines and transformed our city to boost beds, fix meals, buy supplies, and keep our city services functioning. We kept the lights on and the water flowing. Our city workforce has filled roles that they never expected to ever have to fill. We did our best to connect people and businesses with emergency loans and relief that made a difference between ruin and recovery. On March 17, the city declared a local state of emergency. The very next day, the county issued a shelter-in-place order for non-essential businesses to close. This was a hard pill to swallow. What do you mean by closing? You mean close the doors? What do you mean by essential businesses? I think I'm essential, aren't I? Certainly a lot of questions and a whole bunch of different answers we got. None of it easy to take. You as the chamber were at the center of this rare undertaking. You saw many businesses shuttered while other businesses flourished. Many businesses trying to figure out how to survive. You fielded so many questions as a chamber, and you responded the best you could. None of us had experience with such a response to such a pandemic, except maybe Skip Davies. Skip, were you here in 1918? On April 27th, Yolo County mandated coverings. The city passed eviction moratoriums. We delivered and deferred transient occupation taxes for a while. The mask industry was born. Today, we all have our favorite masks, don't we? And we try to be diligent in using those masks. Well, most of us do anyways. Family portraits will be forever changed. In May, we experienced a phased reopening. That had its ups and downs. Certainly, there was a lot of confusion, and certainly impacted the way we live, the way we shop, the way we recreate. And by June, some of us forgot what we learned, and we started to participate in celebrations, and we gathered. This, we know now, created clusters of infections and a substantial rise in confirmed cases. Now in July, we are experiencing a surge of sorts. Just a little over a week ago, Dignity Health informed us that they were experiencing an uptick in hospitalizations. As it turned out, about half the confirmed 800 plus cases in Yolo County are right here in Woodland. As a result of that, we are back to retightening our activities. No more dining, no more movies, no more bowling alleys. But I also think that during this period of time, we also experienced some very bright lights. Our community stepped up when asked. Individuals, businesses, civic groups, nonprofits, local governments all pitched in during these uncertain times, including the food bank, Dinner on Main Street, Dignity Health, the Woodland School District. We fed, we housed, we clothed a significant part of our community. And today, it looks like we'll be having to do that again. Woodland is very fortunate to be food and ag-based. Our economy is considered essential. We haven't missed a beat. We can contrast and compare that to some cities whose economies may depend on tourism, or a college town that depends on student spending. We could have been hit much harder, but we didn't. Our recovery should be a little faster. I don't need to remind any of you that businesses, especially our small businesses, have been severely impacted. It just emphasizes the need for our community and our city support our businesses to weather this troubling period of time. The city partnered with the Chamber and local businesses to launch the Go Woodland local campaign. We welcome other partnerships to create initiatives and incentives to help local businesses retain jobs. I hope to one day be able to say, it's over. I can't wait for that day. Our city is hurting. How could it not be? But our city is ready. Our eyes are open. They're open wide, and we will continue to do what we can as a city for our business community and for all of Woodland. This is, after all, Woodland. We will do it the Woodland way, and we will all be better for it. Now let me talk about the city's fiscal condition. Heading into 2020, we were in pretty strong position. We had a great fiscal condition. We had a proposed and projected balanced budget and a very healthy $13 million general fund reserve, which is about 28%. The city has a policy. The policy statement is that we should have at least 20% on reserve. And we started 2020 with a 28%, which is pretty good. But we also knew there were troubling times coming up ahead. And we knew that these expectations were looming out there on the horizon for, and probably a long overdue, economic recession. Well, sure enough, COVID hit, and the fiscal picture turned clear to murky, what seemed like overnight. The economic impacts of the pandemic have been difficult to assess. We had no experience with the pandemic economy to look at for insight on how this would impact our city budget. Our fiscal staff adjusted budget forecasts to assume nearly $1 million shortfall for the current fiscal year, an anticipated best-case scenario of $1.6 million deficit for 2021. On June 23, the Council adopted the 2021 budget that addresses this prior year and projected deficits by 1, utilizing a portion of our reserves, 2, a $1 million program cuts across all departments, and 3, and with great trepidation, we asked our employees to voluntarily agree to what amounts to a 5% reduction in pay. There's still much work to be done to be prepared to weather and respond to uncertain economic times. We adopted tiered strategies just in case we need to cut an additional $1.5 million from our budget, just in case it gets worse before it gets better. These, in addition to existing cuts, will have significant impacts on our services, most notably and most regrettably to our public safety. We can't sit back and hope that things might get better. We need to be proactive, evaluate every service we have, every service we provide, and define and look for new ways to deliver quality service, knowing that we're going to have less resources to do so. The Council is committed to looking at every department to see what, if anything, we can do to deliver these needed services, but at the same time, do it for less. We also recognize that at the same time, we need to double down on growing our business and our local economy by creating new and better jobs that align with the changing economy. We need to partner with our business community to incentivize and reinvestment in our community especially need to help existing companies weather the current time and support others that are needing to grow while also attracting new businesses to our city. At the same time, we need to ensure that we are building not just a sustainable but an inclusive economy that creates opportunity for all in our community to transition to social and economic disparities and to end any prejudices and injustices in our community. Let me now move to Black Lives Matter and the other protests and our strategy of community policing. As you know, this council has taken a very clear and decisive position on the use of excessive force by our police staff. We have no tolerance for the use of unnecessary and excessive force against our community. At the same time, we can boast that our police department does not have such a climate in their ranks that the use of excessive force becomes commonplace. For that, we are thankful. That doesn't mean that we don't take a look at what we are doing. We are in the process of reviewing and potentially revising our policies and procedures. As a result of several public comments, Chief Caff has already taken immediate steps in response. Our police department has banned the carotid hold as a restraint technique and committed to reevaluate all of our policies and training in this area. This will take some time to do. I wish to thank and acknowledge the many peaceful protests our young people held in the last several weeks. What we learned from those events is that we enjoy tremendous local support for our police department. We also wish to acknowledge the goodwill of our business owners who reached out in support of the peaceful protests. As a result of that, our city did not experience rioting. We did not experience looting. We did not experience vandalism that other communities, even those close by, have endured. And for that, we are forever grateful. As a city council, we, along with our city manager and our police department, are absolutely committed to evaluate and improve policies and training and the culture in our police department. We have been working on a platform and a method for the community to participate in and provide input on the best practices for our community. City Council will be providing you information for a community forum that we hope to have sometime in August. Stay tuned for that. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to call up our interim city manager, Ken Hiatt. Ken?
All right, thank you, Mayor Lansburgh, and thank you, members of the community and business community especially, for tuning in today. It's my pleasure to be able to address the community on some of the highlights that the community has been able to accomplish over the past decade, but then also look to some of the future accomplishments that we anticipate achieving in the coming days. I'll start first with infrastructure. So with any community, and especially Woodland, that's now 150 years old, we'll be celebrating our centennial, sesquicentennial celebration next year of incorporation. The infrastructure that we have in our community varies in age substantially. And some of the biggest highlights that I'd like to point out to this community and give credit not just to the city itself, but the community for supporting these projects starts first and foremost with the water project. So as you know, the city is now fully transitioned off of groundwater to surface water. So this $250 million joint project with our partners to the south, City of Davis and UC Davis, was completed about 4 years ago and is now sustainably delivering to this community millions of gallons of water every day in a sustainable fashion. And it wasn't enough just to transition off of well water to surface water. The community also had the ambition and the foresight to also invest in aquifer storage and recovery system. So to date, we have 3 what we call ASR wells that are now injecting water during the wetter winter months into the ground. So during the summer, we can pull on that water during peak demands. So currently, We are all sitting on top of 1.7 billion gallons of water that actually came out of the Sacramento River this winter and has been injected into the ground and being used for peak demands during the summer. And this is critical for us to be able to convey to our business community, particularly those that rely on water as part of their operations, that probably more than any other city in this state, we are positioned to be able to provide reliable water to their operation at affordable costs into the future. Secondly, I'd like to point out our wastewater treatment plant, which is another critical piece of infrastructure for any community. We were able to upgrade that plant about 10 years ago to provide capacity for growth through 2035. So that wastewater treatment plant, again, when businesses approach us asking to expand or new companies looking to come to town, the second question they ask is, what is your infrastructure capacity? And our ability to be able to respond and say we have sufficient capacity to provide just about whatever wastewater as well as water needs that they have is critical to our economic development strategy. And then lastly, the important topic of sustainability in any community. The city had the foresight, again, about 5 years ago to invest in solar at each of its public facilities. And today, we're generating 2.3 megawatts of clean electricity at each of these plants, delivering about 90% of our electrical load for our municipal operations on any given day. This has also provided a much more stable rate for the city's electricity use and positioned the city, again, to be able to weather significant rate increases and create a much more reliable financial stream for us. And I can't talk about infrastructure in Woodland without talking about roadways. So many of our roadways were probably built back in the 1800s and stayed that way until recently. And the council has really been very focused around investing on some of the key corridors. And we've been fortunate to be able to secure substantial grant funding from the state and the federal government to help with improving these roads. So shown here is Kentucky Avenue as it existed about 5 years ago. Kentucky Avenue, as of today, has been upgraded to not just 2 lanes each way. It now has bike lanes and sidewalks where they didn't exist before, as well as storm drain infrastructure. So this $14 million project was substantially achieved with outside funding sources. There was a limited amount of local dollars, particularly the Measure F, Measure E sales tax dollars that the community helped provide for us to be able to leverage those grants was used to complete this project. More recently, the West Main Street roadway, which is probably the most complained about piece of infrastructure in our community up until recently. This about $11 million project as well spans from Road 98 all the way to West Street. Very important east-west corridor in our community, and again was completely failing, and we spent about 6 years assembling the necessary funding and preparing the plans and ultimately bidding the project to completion. So as of today, this roadway is nearly complete. This past Monday, the traffic signals were turned on and all the orange cones and potholes that used to be there are no longer there, and travelers and the businesses along that corridor can now peacefully enjoy transiting this corridor. Many of these roadway projects, partially due to the way the state has transitioned their funding allocations, have really been not just about rebuilding a road, but rebuilding a road in a way that's more sustainable and in alignment with community values. And so the importance of bike lanes and pedestrian facilities is paramount in being able to secure the grant funding for these projects. So the city has been actively implementing projects throughout town to improve the bike infrastructure, the pedestrian infrastructure throughout this community, which is also in alignment with many of the comments we heard during the general plan update process about a desire for this community to transition away its reliance and dominance on the automobile and create a more walkable and bikeable community. To that end, one of the projects that we're currently working on is a bike and pedestrian only facility that would connect Spring Lake to Sports Park Drive and the community center. and really be an important connector to the east and the west side of this community. This project is in the final stages of design and environmental review and is scheduled to go to construction next year with completion in 2022. All right, now let me transition to the topic of development activity within the city. Over the last 4 or 5 years since adoption of the city's general plan, the council has been laser focused on eliminating all barriers to reinvestment in the community and barriers that might otherwise prevent new housing from being built. We were positioned when we started 22 to have effectively all of those barriers that we could as a city address out of the way, and really positioned to see the largest growth trajectory in recent years this year. Naturally, with the pandemic hitting, there was a bit of a pause in the finance and the development community that has had an effect on us, but it's my pleasure to report that in spite of that, the 6 national home builders that are actively building out in Spring Lake never really stopped work. We were able to continue to deliver services to those builders throughout the pandemic and allow them to continue to build housing necessary within this community. So as of today, we've issued over 300 single-family building permits for this calendar year, which is on pace to again set a new record. But it's not just housing in Spring Lake that the council was focused on. There was really an acute interest in seeing infill housing developed to respond to changing demographic desires as well as housing patterns. And so the infill incentives that we've developed and the streamlining permitting processes that we developed have really positioned projects like the downtown suites to move forward and really are beginning to transform in a new way downtown as a place not just to do business, to eat, but also now to live. So the Downtown Suites project developed by local developer Dave Snow is nearing completion. All 14 units, for sale units, have now been sold or in contract to be sold for that project. So this was a critical first stage project approved not just to the development community but the finance community, that housing in downtown Woodland was viable and profit could be made by the developer and people were desiring to live there. So Dave Snow is now positioning to move on to his next project, I believe 18 units on Cleveland Avenue, just on the other side of downtown. He'll be breaking ground next week on that project. Also want to give credit to Ron Caceres. This Winnie Fourplex building had sat vacant for about 7 years. Ever since I came to the city of Woodland, it is vacant and actually condemned. And Ron was able to assemble the necessary financing, and we worked with him to get the permits necessary to rehab this building. It now has 4 single bedroom rental units within it, and has really, again, sort of transformed this block and really changed the perception of this area of downtown. As many know, Ron also worked on the Meyer building, which is right across the street, another building that had sat vacant for over 10 years. He successfully renovated that building, has made it a 21st century building, and is now fully leased up. Again, these projects were important not just to signal to the community that downtown was alive and vibrant and heading back to its glory days, but it also, more importantly, signals to lenders that are critical to additional developers in downtown that there is a potential for these buildings to be renovated and ultimately have a return on investment. The next phase of projects that we're starting to see now starts with 702 Main. This is right across from Heritage Plaza. So Councilmember Stallard has recently acquired this building, is now going through the painstaking renovation process of this building. Probably by the end of this year, you will see the renderings here. This building adorn this critical and vital intersection in downtown. When it's completed, it will have 7 residential units on the upper floor, 1 accessible residential unit on the ground floor, and then 5,000 square feet of commercial, really activating what has been a dead corner for many years and really, again, creating a new pattern for energy in downtown. The Downtown Hotel project, which is a project the council initiated over 5 years ago now, is nearing its final phase of building permitting. The rendering that you see here was recently generated by the architect. They're going through the final franchise approval process, and we expect to see this project break ground before beginning of fall. Construction will take about 12 to 18 months. So within a year and a half, the other end of downtown, right as you come in off of East Street, will be anchored to complement the new courthouse building with a new 5-story, 91-room hotel with ground floor restaurant and retail space. Now let me speak a little bit to the topic of jobs. Traditionally, I think economic development was seen as something that generated sales tax or development activity, and really more contemporary thinking focuses on the job aspect of economic development, not just the quantity of jobs, but really the type and the quality of the jobs that are delivered. In 2012, 2013, as we were coming out of the recession, City Council challenged staff and the community to identify a new economic development strategy for the community. We had seen about 12 million square feet out in the industrial area go from 90% occupancy down to about 30% occupancy. A lot of the warehouse distribution uses went away in 2008, 2009. So we had a tremendous opportunity to try to fill that. However, there was no demand. We quickly turned to evaluating what are the unique strengths, unique assets of the community to build on to define that strategy. And the food and ag industry sector that the community has naturally been founded on and relied on for now 150 years had really, to some degree, been forgotten as a pinnacle of our economic development and fiscal situation. So we actually reached out to 25 local CEOs of these food and ag companies, and we asked them to tell us what their experiences were during the past Great Recession, what the primary challenges and obstacles were to help them expand and grow their businesses, and furthermore, grow and expand that cluster of jobs around the food and ag space. So we spent several years listening and reiterating with them what the best way to assist that segment of our economy and develop strategies to help grow their businesses as well as our local economy. One of the key themes that we heard throughout that process was, Woodland has an incredible story to tell around its food and ag industry, but nobody knows it. We've forgotten it. So how do we tell that story? The Food Front initiative was really developed in partnership with that food and ag industry cluster, largely as a way to tell the story to our community, to folks outside of Woodland about the great crops that are grown here, the products that are produced in our community, the jobs that are being generated in our community, and actually the innovation and sustainability that has really driven our food and ag economy even before those were good buzzwords. So we developed the Food Front initiative, launched it about 3 years ago, and have ever since been gaining more and more traction both within the community and outside the community that has really brought unique focus to what we have to offer as a place for food and agriculture. This exhibit here we produced really is a simple graphic to try to begin to tell that story. It indicates there's over 179, and actually we've identified over 190 companies that are directly engaged in the food and ag space right here in and around Woodland. And there's some unique subclusters within those 190 companies, including the second largest concentration of seed research companies in the world. We have a very unique cluster around food processors, particularly rice and rice product related, but also tomatoes as well here. And what we found is that our reputation here in Woodland, particularly in the Cape Valley area, is synonymous with quality and reliability and sustainability. And those themes came into alignment with what we've seen as a consumer trend to really want to know and understand where their products are made, how they're grown, and what's in them. So building off of that consumer-driven desire to want to consume high-quality foods and know where it comes from, we begin to attract new companies and expand the companies that we have in our community to really build on this, this new trend. In 2018, 2019, we identified there's over 5,000 jobs directly associated with the food and ag industry here. There's actually over $150 million in that year alone invested in these companies in our community to expand and grow their businesses. And there's over 300 crops grown within 15 miles of our community, which is probably the highest diversity of crops within any one location anywhere in our country. Gives us a very unique position to be able to attract and grow the companies that we're targeting and create high value and unique products. Another exciting project that we just launched through the Food Front in partnership with one of our corporate partners, Raley's, in the Chamber of Commerce, was our Food Front local product displays in their stores. So this was a first time for Raley's to really partner with the community and highlight and showcase the products that are grown right here in our community in their stores to help connect our consumers and our residents with the products that are made right here in Woodland. Seeing that our community, though, had little opportunity and had taken little opportunity, I should say, to leverage the UC Davis campus just to the south and capture some of that intellectual knowledge that graduates from that campus every day, as well as it comes to that campus every year to do research and partner in collaborative ways. As part of the general plan process, the council identified a desire to locate a research and technology park at the very south end of the community as part of the next phase of the Southeast Area Growth Plan. Shown here is the 350 acres identified as the priority growth area for the community. We partnered with the landowners now to initiate an application and ultimately a development that will include 2.1 million square feet of research and industrial space, 1,600 residential units that will span everything from condominiums, townhouses, to single-family detached homes, as well as affordable housing. That project is scheduled to be released for public review at the end of the summer. And ultimately, if council approves the project, we'll see development activity within the next 2 years. And we've already begun to see industry interest in locating in this location, largely again due to the proximity to UC Davis, but also given our reputation around the Food Front Initiative and the companies that we have here and a desire to want to partner with them as well as the research strengths at UC Davis. We don't want to just assume that if we plan for 2.1 million square feet of research technology space, Woodland's economy will quickly pivot and be a innovation-based economy. And so we've been working for the last 4 years with AgStart to develop and cultivate an innovation ecosystem in downtown. The AgStart incubator has been in downtown Woodland now for 2.5, 3 years. And is now getting ready to announce an exciting new project, which is the lab at AgStart, which will be the largest ag and food research lab for startup companies within the region. It'll be 5,000 square feet of lab space that young aspiring companies can rent a bench and test out and improve their technologies, which is a critical resource gap in our innovation ecosystem. So Woodland's going to position itself to be the largest innovation lab for food and ag within the region and begin to pull some of the companies out of the Bay Area as well as internationally into Woodland to begin to incubate these companies with the ultimate goal of these companies thriving, succeeding, and growing into the research and technology park. And then lastly, I can't talk about the Food Front without giving a shout out to one of the event sponsors, Pacific Coast Producers. So we wanted to have fun with the Food Front Initiative as well, and we've partnered with many of the companies to do murals and begin to adorn the community and again celebrate the heritage that we have here in food and ag. And so if you've been down East Main Street and seen the mural on the Pacific Coast Producers facility, I want to thank them for being great partners and celebrating and improving our community. So Woodland, like nearly every other city in California leading up to the pandemic, was spending much of their time trying to grapple with the issues surrounding homelessness. There's so many different factors that play into the growing and concerning trend around homelessness in the state and really throughout the country. Woodlands took the initiative last year to say we can't just sit back and point fingers at the state or county or other entities. We needed to step up and really do something to try to make a difference and change the trend and the trajectory. To that end, we partnered with Fourth and Hope, Friends of the Mission in Yolo County to identify a piece of property that the city owns out on East Beamer Way and developed a vision for that property to develop a 6-acre campus of sorts that would ultimately, when built out, be an integrated facility that would house the homeless shelter population as well as transitional housing and mental and substance abuse housing for folks within this community, and bring the services to that location, that campus, rather than relying on those individual clients to seek out those services within our community. We are pleased to celebrate the recent groundbreaking of the first phase of that project, the homeless shelter. The council approved a $2 million construction project, and Broward Builders has started construction on that project and will hopefully see completion of that before November of this year. Ultimately, when completed, this first phase will allow the Fourth and Hope population that is currently housed at their facility downtown, as well as the emergency shelter, be relocated out to that facility and allow the current facilities downtown at Fourth and Hope to be backfilled and focused just on homeless families. Once the campus is constructed, it will allow day services to be provided for the population so that unlike currently, the homeless individuals need to exit Fourth and Hope in the morning and then seek refuge throughout the community during the day. The campus out there at East Beamer Way will allow those individuals, should they choose, to remain at the site on the campus and take advantage of services and resources there without needing to leave the facility and come back later that evening. So we're excited to see how this project impacts the situation, the condition here in this community. The next phase of the project would be 61 permanently supportive housing units for which Friends of the Mission and the city were successful in receiving a $5 million grant from the state. We have successfully also received, thank you Dignity, a $1.5 million grant towards that project, and we're nearing the final funding phase of that project, and we believe by the end of the year, first part of next year, to have all the funding in place necessary to construct all 61 permanent supportive housing units. Those units will be modular units that will be brought out on site. The existing facility that's being built for the shelter will allow those projects to proceed very expeditiously with a goal potentially of having those units available to be occupied by spring of next year. So we want to thank the business community for being patient as we've tried to understand this very complex and challenging issue. We know there isn't one business and really one resident in this community that hasn't been impacted in some way or another by this issue, and we will need your patience continually as we try to navigate this challenging societal issue, but we look forward to working with you as well as our social service partners to deliver a one-of-a-kind project that will ultimately, we believe, be a model for other communities throughout the state and the country. All right, so that concludes my remarks for the State of the City this year, and I look forward to receiving questions from participants today, and feel free, even if you don't get that question answered today, to follow up with either myself or the mayor. I'd be happy to sit down with you and share further insights. Thank you very much.
Welcome back, everybody. Wasn't that a fantastic quality program? Thank you, Mayor Lansburgh and City Manager Hiatt, for your informative presentation, efforts, care, and concern for our great city. As we get prepared for the live question and answer portion of the program, please remember to submit your inquiries via the Zoom Q&A feature. We have a limited time and we'll address as many questions as possible. We're going to go ahead and start with the pre-submitted questions that were not addressed during the presentation. Let's go ahead and start. Gentlemen, are you ready? How about Kelly Hutchison would like to know what the progress is on the second pool. Oh. You guys are muted.
You hear us now, Nick?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. The camera's over here. Well, I think the second pool for Woodland is one of our highest priorities, and we've been diligently moving forward to make it happen. Thanks to our staff, we've got a relationship with Woodland Joint Unified School District for a 99-year lease, I believe, for land immediately to the south of Pioneer High School. That's an important first step, a place to have it. There also benefits from parking at the high school available on weekends for swim meets and the like. The other part is $7 to $9 million. That's not so easy to do. The city has isolated approximately $1.5 million so far towards that pool project. But with the COVID situation, the additional draw on our finances, the reduction in revenues, I think we have to honestly say that it's on hold for the moment until we get a clearer view of what's going to be happening fiscally in the coming year.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. All right, next question. Anthony Volker would like to hear an update on the Youth Master Plan.
Thank you, Nick. The city and the school district, Anthony, are initiating a jointly funded effort to develop a citywide youth master plan. First phase will evaluate the current programs that we have in place right now and the services that we are doing now. We're going to follow that with a second phase that will identify the new programs and strategies to support youth within our community. The youth master plan may also be affected by the public's input at the community forum that we intend to have here in August. So we look forward to getting this master plan going along with the input from the community. So thank you for the question.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. And then next we've got Lori Lagerstrom is asking if our post office is safe and is it in danger of closing?
Yeah, I'll take that one. Thank you, Lori, for the question. As you know, the post office is deemed an essential facility. So unless and until the federal government decides to close post offices, we anticipate that facility to remain open to the community. I can't speak to the practices there relative to ensuring sanitation and whatnot, but I suspect being a federal facility that they are adhering to both state and federal requirements. So we do not anticipate at this time that the post office will close, but the federal government could make an alternative decision as this pandemic evolves.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ken. So we will now go to our Q&A box. So remember, if you do have a question, please add it in right there. Let's start with Cesar Torres's question. What is the city doing to protect small businesses? They are the driving force to our city's local organizations and programs.
Sure, I'll take a stab at that, and Tom and Rich can fill in as well. So absolutely, the small business community is vital to the health of this community, and we're taking that seriously. We have been actively engaged. We have a team assigned to help our small business community understand the ever-changing regulations and guidance that comes down from the state and the county. So first and foremost, right, we want to make sure that they have been provided the most recent information and guidance. And rather than take a punitive approach, we've been taking an educational approach with our business community to ensure that they are aware of the requirements, whether it be restrictions on activities or what the next phase of reopening might look like for them. So moving forward, right, we have partnered with the Chamber to develop the Go Woodland Local campaign, which is building traction, and it's really around educating our community members around the importance of supporting our local businesses and really the multitude of impact that every dollar that you spend in a local business has in the community. And so building on that will be important. And we continue to welcome any ideas that our small business owners have and issues that they're experiencing that we can assist with, because it's going to take a collaborative effort for us to weather this period successfully and come out of it on the other end with a stronger, more vital community than we went into it with. So Tom or Rich, you want to add anything to that?
Just quickly, Ken. Caesar, that's a great question. Be assured that this council has businesses, especially the small businesses, in mind. I can't think of a meeting that goes by that business community is not part of our topics. It's always on our mind. Your survival, your well-being, and your hopefully thriving business is always on our mind. So keep that in mind as you go forward. Hang in there. It's going to work. It's going to work out for us.
Rich, if I could add also, you can still eat dinner out in downtown and other parts of our community as long as there's a place to dine outside the actual physical business. So there are courtyards and outdoor dining opportunities that you can take advantage of. And we urge you to do so throughout our community because these businesses are depending on your patronage. And you can also take out food. As you may notice, we've allowed reserved spaces for takeout in front of some of our dining establishments. Anyone that wanted one could have one. We've also allowed our restaurants to expand onto the sidewalk if they didn't have an interior dining area or if they needed a larger outdoor dining area. So we're open to any solution that will help our businesses remain viable. But we really need to help all of our citizens for this to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you, Caesar, for the question. Thank you, gentlemen. Carrie Roberts would like a clarification. Did Mayor Lansburgh say they reduced the police department budget?
The budget for 2021 has not been reduced per se. All the budget reduction for the police department comes in the form of salary savings. We've asked all of our employees across the board, not only the police department, the fire department, all departments, to essentially take a 5% reduction in pay. In that regard, their budget has been reduced by that amount. At this time, the budget's always moving, it's always alive. We're also looking at all the other programs the department has where we can streamline it, where we can save, and how we can still deliver services for less.
Very good. Okay, Joy Cohen for Ken. Given the current rise in food insecurity in Woodland and the expected increase as the COVID-19 socioeconomic crisis grows over the next several years, what do you see as the roles of the food front and the lab as catalysts and partners with YOLO Food Bank and other nonprofits in the local social safety net to meet the needs of low-income, vulnerable residents?
Thank you, Joy, for that important question. So, similar to a lot of the other responses around this pandemic, it's going to require the community coming together in new ways that we haven't had to in the past and build on those relationships and those connections. And so the value of the food front initiative has proven itself already and will continue to be essential in connecting our food producers with those that are in need of food. So building stronger, deeper connections. Our food front partners quickly responded in the need at the beginning of this pandemic, and I fully expect and trust that through this period they will step up and provide food both to the food bank as well as others in need within this community. So that food front initiative, I think, has been critical for us to be able to quickly respond and tap those relationships and provide the products to those that are in need. Relative to maybe future thinking in the context of the food lab and the Ag Start Innovation Lab, we're going to have to, evolve and really rethink in many ways the way we produce food. Our global distribution channels have been disrupted. And so a lot of the work that's being done by these food and ag innovation companies is really talking about how do we provide better security around the food that we produce here in this country, but also produce food with less resources and less potential risk and exposure, not just to the consumer, but even the employees that are engaged in food production. So I think it's going to be a critical piece of the puzzle moving forward globally and nationally, and we're proud to be in a place where some of that innovation will begin to occur. So, Rich, anything to add to that?
Said it well.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Joy, for your question. I've got Mark. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected real estate values in Woodland? And have there been any city-level initiatives to help retain values during the current situation?
Well, I frankly do not see a drop in real estate values in Woodland. I've seen homes now selling in older neighborhoods for over $500,000, and I don't think there's been a change. So I'm not aware of any precipitous drop in real estate values. Whether homes are remaining on the market longer at this time, I can't say. I'm not in the real estate business, at least not in residential. So, I think we're doing just fine in that. I think people are in a wait and see posture. It's a strange thing with all the economic challenges. The stock market dropped almost a fourth of its value, and it's reclaimed almost all of it. Maybe we're down about 10% from where we were before the market dropped. So I think values are holding. What we do as a city is to continue doing what we have been doing, to promote economic development in the community, to create beautification, to improve our infrastructure. And we haven't stopped on any of those things. They're all going forward. So hopefully this current blip in our lives will pass, and we will be back to a situation where we can continue our steady progress. That doesn't mean the world will be the same after the COVID situation, but at least we won't be under the economic threats we're dealing with at the moment.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Mark. Ron Caceres, what is the status of the residential and commercial eviction moratorium?
Yeah, so the commercial eviction moratorium that the council passed, I believe it was in March, sunset, I believe, in June this year. So as of now, the city does not have on the books ordinance that prevents the eviction of commercial tenants in town. The residential moratorium is still in effect and is set to sunset by the state under their order at the end of the month. We'll be tracking to see if that gets renewed and what, if any, amendment we might need to make to our residential eviction moratorium.
If I could add to that, Ken, I would encourage all of our landlords in this community to exercise as much compassion and discretion as they can in working with their tenants. I believe that would be the sense of our council. We're a community. We all need to work together. People are in different situations. Landlords have fiscal responsibilities, also mortgages and the like. So whether they can provide help or not is an independent decision. But we as a community really need to stick together and make sure we're helping those who need a little help. Some of us have more than we need. I suggest we do what we can to help those who have less than they need.
Very good. Thank you, Ron. Jane Williams is asking, there's a lot of discussion about schools opening this fall. Where does the city of Woodland stand on this topic?
You can say it's a school district.
I think that Mayor Pro Tem Stallard, I believe, was part of the 3x2x2 this morning, and I think he was filled in on some of these issues. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, frankly, it's a decision of the Woodland Joint Unified School District. We as a city are prepared to stand with the school district, whatever their decision is. The facts that they have to face are changing regularly. And, we now have information that the two largest school districts in the state, we heard this morning from Superintendent Tom Pritchard, that being Los Angeles Unified and San Diego Unified, have both indicated they will be totally virtual this fall. Stanislaus County, all the schools there will be virtual this fall. We understand the desire of our citizens to have their children receiving live instruction in the schools. The thing that it will be discussed further tomorrow night on the school district agenda, so perhaps people would care to tune in and hear from them. Tom Pritchard, the superintendent, again this morning said it's more likely to be a phased reopening. It'll be, he's talking about it could extend as long as 1.5 years to be fully open for everyone all the time. So at this point in time, we leave it to the schools to sort through the information and the facts that they have to face, including whether the teachers are willing to come back to the classrooms in making their decision. And I think our job as a city is to work with them at whatever they decide.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom. Richard Sakai, he's got a two-part question. I'm going to start with the second part first. Does the city of Woodland have sufficient testing materials to offer testing to anyone who desires a test for COVID-19?
I'll take that. So the city itself does not have testing equipment at its disposal. We rely either on the county or the local health providers or the private clinics that are offering testing at the minute. It's our understanding that the capacities for testing are being stretched at the moment. There are limitations on access to some of the medium that's necessary to perform these tests and analyze these tests. So the county, and in partnership with the health providers, is rapidly responding and adapting to how to best deploy those tests. It's not clear at the moment where that trend will head in the future, but we really rely on the county health officer to help ensure that this community is provided the testing necessary. I do want to acknowledge on this call that the OptumServe testing facility that was here in this community back in June at the fairgrounds will be moving back to Woodland as of July 28th. The community college has generously offered to host that testing facility. So as of July 28th, for about 3 to 4 weeks, we will have that free testing service back within our community.
Very good. And the first part of Richard's question, has the city considered closing parking on Main Street and allowing outdoor dining as they have done in Davis to support our restaurants?
We actually did look at a variety of different options to provide outdoor seating for the restaurants in downtown. And to date, in working with the restaurants, the need for them to expand into Main Street wasn't necessary. So we're taking an incremental approach. We have through the June month, we did a special picnic in downtown on First Street in College, which was successful. Now that the restaurants are getting more experience with outdoor dining service, most of them are retracting and providing that seating on the sidewalk itself, not necessitating closure of the street, which, as we all know, has its side effects, rerouting traffic and whatnot, and could potentially make or have an impact on negative business revenues for the restaurants. So at the moment, we're working with the restaurants and we're ready, as Tom said earlier, to pursue and respond to any ideas that would benefit the restaurants and the other businesses. But for now, I expect that the sidewalks will be the primary outdoor dining resource for them.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Richard, for your questions. Robin, what efforts are being taken to protect Woodlanders from being priced out of the large amounts of development focused on attracting higher wage earners?
Sounds like a canned response.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. And it's a question I think that every community in California that's going through growth has to grapple with. So the council, has continually said affordable housing is a priority for this community. And the state took away several tools during the Great Recession that were very helpful to communities to be able to deliver affordable housing to the community. As a result, we've transitioned away from requiring new construction to deliver for sale affordable units. And that was also informed by the fact that a lot of these new homes that are being built could not find qualifying buyers because the lending requirements were so strict that the lower income, even if the price was at the necessary limits, folks couldn't qualify it. So the transition away from trying to require these developers to provide for sale affordable units and instead taking revenue from them to build rental housing units, which is a much obviously more impacted segment of the community, has been the priority. We have been able to deliver affordable housing units. The one piece that we haven't been successful in trying to overcome is the absence of any new rental housing that is not rent restricted, so not a capital A affordable unit. So we have not seen a new rental apartment project in Woodland for close to 15 years now. The council has been actively trying to promote the development community to identify projects and advance those. And I believe we're on the cusp of finally overcoming that hurdle and seeing 168 unit rental apartment project at Ashley in Maine come in for application this year with hopefully, if construction costs stay manageable, we'll be able to come out of the ground first part of next year. But at the end of the day, right, it's a very complex issue and question to try to figure out. And I think sort of in response to one of the earlier questions, our housing prices have not seen much of a drop. A lot of that is a result of the great migration out of the Bay Area, the larger metropolitan areas. Now that telework is much more normalized and likely to be around for a while, it's really having a disruptive impact on housing markets in different communities. And so we will continue to feel out where that's headed and continue to ensure that the housing that we are building provides a variety of different housing opportunities for people in the community.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. Next question, just chaining on to that, as Spring Lake continues to be developed, this is from Katie Curran. As Spring Lake continues to be developed, where are most of the home buyers relocating from, and what is the city doing to introduce them to our downtown? So you've already addressed where they're relocating from, but what are we doing to introduce them to them?
Yeah, I'll add on that a little bit. So in our conversations recently with the home builders in Spring Lake and some of the real estate agents, the pattern prior to the pandemic was probably 50% were relocating from within Yolo County, primarily Davis. The other 30–40% were actually relocating within the community. There's an interesting trend where we have these new residents coming into the community, and how do we access them and expose them to the great retail and restaurant, dining, and medical providers we have in the community. And so that is a specific project that we actually identified with the chamber to develop a welcome package and a kind of a marketing campaign to these new residents to introduce them to what Woodland has to offer for them. But it's an ever changing and challenging issue to try to sort of get the attention of people. And so whether it's social media or print material, whatnot, we're very open to creative and collaborative ways to send that message to these new residents.
Very good. Thank you, Katie, for your question. Thank you, Ken. Thomas Bennett is asking, or stating, I am encouraged that residents are asking questions about racial equity. What plans do the City Council have to address these concerns?
As far as the community or as far as our city employment, I can tell you that the City of Woodland City Council is committed to working with the community to address these very issues. We hope that we'll be able to get a forum put together for you in August, because we do want to hear from you. We want to do what we can to make sure that you're being heard and that we address these issues of inequality, whether it's racial or gender or economic, or whatever it is. We want to address every one of them. We believe that having the stability in our community is critical to making sure that everyone feels safe and feels welcome in this city.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Lansburgh. And thank you, Thomas, for your question. Christy at the Chamber wants some clarification she's being asked how long the Court Street Road project is expected to last, and also how about the Gibson Road project?
Christy, before Ken answers, all the council members have asked the same question, so we'll let Ken repeat it.
The answer as of today relative to West Court Street, so construction has reinitiated on that project intentionally as the West Main Street project was coming to a close so that there wasn't overlap. That project is scheduled to be about a 3.5-month construction project. So at this point, we anticipate being completely off of West Court Street before Thanksgiving this year. Many residents, if you go down Gibson Road, have noticed that we've initiated the underground work necessary for the Gibson Road renovation project. So that underground utility work that's occurring right now, it's probably got another month and a half left, I believe, for that work to occur. May turn into 3 months pretty quickly, because anytime you're working underground, there's surprises that come along. So much less certain with that time frame. And then do want to forewarn the community after the underground work, the current project schedule will have the roadway portion. So the new roadway will be similar to West Main Street, reconstructed next year. That will probably commence as early as May, run through the summer and into late fall for completion.
Very good. Gentlemen, that concludes the questions that we currently have. We have just a few minutes if there's any closing remarks that you would like to make.
Well, this is Rich Lansburgh. It's been my pleasure, absolute pleasure, to serve as your mayor of 2020. It's too bad that we have 2020 the way it is, but we still have 6 months to go. Let's do it the best we can over the next 6 months, and let's all come together. We're going to beat this pandemic. We're going to make sure our businesses flourish, and we're going to make sure we do everything we can to help you flourish as a business. Tom?
Well, again, I would just say, remember, friends, we're a community. We're all in this. We're all responsible for how we succeed. And we need everybody's help, everybody's participation. And I thank the Chamber of Commerce for the leadership it provides among the businesses in our community to help keep us together. And we want to do everything we can. We're all anxious for new ideas. So please share anything you have. I think we should be doing. We'll do the best we can. Thank you.
Sure, and I'll just close with another thank you to the Chamber. From the board down to the staff, been great partners through this challenging time. And to the community and the business community, absolutely appreciate the patience and the tolerance through this very uncertain and challenging period. You have weathered it extremely well. We're very fortunate to have a community that responds when we ask them to respond to very challenging requests, and can't be more proud of how the community and business community have stepped up to respond to it. So thanks. I appreciate the opportunity. And door and Zoom cameras are always open if you have any questions to follow up with.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to our panel. If you do have any additional questions or comments, you can find contact information for the mayor, mayor pro tem, and the city manager right on the City of Woodland website at cityofwoodland.org. Let's see. So as we conclude, we want to talk about the Go Woodland Local. You heard it during the presentation, as well as during our questions. As 2020 continues to unfold, we cannot grow weary in the support and patronage of our local businesses. These business owners and their employees are relying heavily on our collective support to stay afloat. Join us in the city-led Instagram, #GoWoodlandLocal, and the chamber-led #KeepWoodlandStrong campaigns. These free digital campaigns provide visibility to many of our longtime and new small businesses alike. These hashtags, when used in the various social media platforms, allow participating businesses to communicate to a broader social media audience uniquely focused on their ongoing success. All businesses are invited to participate in these campaigns. The more that join in, the more significant the reach. So do not forget to go Woodland local to keep Woodland strong. And as we close, I would like to thank again our headline sponsors, Dignity Health and Pacific Coast Producers. Special thanks and recognition to Mayor Lansburgh, Interim City Manager Hiatt, and Pro Tem Mayor Tom Stallard, our State of the City Planning Committee, including Josh Hilliard with Firehouse Entertainment, our friends at Catalyst Church, and our partners at the City of Woodland. We appreciate your attendance today and your ongoing support. As we close, on behalf of the Chamber and our Board of Directors, I would like to recognize our dedicated annual sponsors. Thank you all. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and be kind. Thank you very much.